I think inside I always knew what my values were and who I wanted to be, and I just couldn't ever get it out. You know,
Mm.
I couldn't talk about if something was bothering me. I couldn't be upset about something. I couldn't complain about something. I couldn't, there just was no doing wrong on his side. And so if I did say something, I would be punished for it. I would be, there would be anger to deal with, and there would be, silent treatment, and there would just be pouting and just be whatever. And it just became, it was critical for my survival to say nothing. And so coming out of that, I had to figure out how to have a voice again. And I still don't always speak up sometimes when I think that I should. I think I'm probably always going to be that way to some degree, but there's also a hard line in the sand about what I will no longer have in my life.
Hello, and welcome to the Feel Podcast today. I'm your host, Melissa Crook. Got my Only Human shirt on today because this is going to be an episode, I think, that reminds us of that and all that we hold within us. I have my friend Kira Hartley Klinger here with me today. If you've followed our panels the last year, you've met her before. She's been on panels with me, but now she gets to be on the podcast with me. She describes herself as resilient, determined, and strong, and that's going to come through as she shares the chapters and iterations and evolutions of her story here with us today. Let me get my words out. Kira, welcome to the Feel Podcast.
Hi, thank you, Melissa. I forgot to add to that, sunburn today. So yes, it is not menopause. It is sunburn. I was weeding
both
right
things
before
are possible for both of us right now.
Indeed. Yes, flashes have happened to me in the middle of podcasts many times. So not this one.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's get right into it because you know this talking point so well. These talking points are going to guide us through your story and how it is that you got to where you are today, all the things that you offer, how your creativity shows up, your ingenuity shows up, all of that. But let's start with self-care and the journey that has been and continues to be for you. You and I were talking before, you made a self-care decision just recently that is not necessarily in the way we think about self-care, but it's a reminder of self-care is anything that honors us and our wellness and what we need to do for that. So talk to me about your journey with this.
Gosh, I think self-care was and I can't even say, I'm not even going to say it was absent. I married real young. I married when I was 18 and a baby. And I had 3 kids by the time I was 26. It was not a healthy marriage at all. But, we still, he brought home money. I tried to bring home money. Still never had enough money. The one thing that I always wanted to do since I was a child was write. And so despite how busy our schedules were, even then, when I was dying inside and miserable most days, I mean, my kids are what kept me going, but I would get up before everybody else did and write. And I wrote 3 gigantic novels in my 20s because I needed to, yeah, I mean, none of them got published. I had an agent. I had some exciting reads with prominent publishers, but, fiction wasn't meant to be my lane. But, that's all right. It was something that healed me, that gave me my space. And I still write first thing in the morning.
I love that recognition of that thing that allows you to process and move through and just soothe yourself. And I think the creativity lane, there's so many opportunities for that to be where our voices come through and where our pain is felt and our emotions are felt and our joy is found. That's such a gift. And you continue, you've got children's books out in the world now. Books are a very incremental part of your life now. Talk about that.
Yeah. So I didn't think it was going to be a thing, really. I mean, I finally sold a piece of work to a magazine in my 30s. And that was my first officially published thing, you know.
Yeah.
And then they bought a second one. They bought back to back. And it wasn't fiction this time. I was inspired. My daughter and I were volunteering at an equestrian therapy center, and the impact that it was having on my 10-year-old daughter at the time inspired me. So I wrote about it, and I sold it to the first editor that I queried. And so it was kind of like an aha moment. Okay. So then divorce happened at 40. And any concept of writing at that point, I had to put it aside. I had to make money, and writing does not. Even very prolific, highly published authors do not make a whole lot of money. So I had to do something that made money, and I didn't have a whole lot to fall back on. You know, I didn't go to college. I'm married at 18. I had side hustles. I cleaned houses and wrote resumes. I didn't really have any job experience. What was I going to do? So I had a hobby at the time, buying and selling. eBay was kind of new, and I'd go to auctions with friends. And if something sold cheap, I'd be like, oh, I wonder if that's worth anything. You know, I'd pick it up and I'd try, and I was making money. It was kind of fun. So I just thought to myself, you know, I wonder if I stepped it up, if I could actually make a living at this.
Yeah.
And I still had another side job. I was blowing the whistle on the playground at the elementary school, for crying out loud, 4 hours a day. Certainly was not going to pay the bills with that either. And gosh, I didn't mind it. I loved the kids, but I hate winter. I hate winter so stinking much.
When you're in Maine, outdoor recess in Maine? Ooh.
No, I don't live in Maine. I live in Ohio, but Ohio.
Oh, but your family was in Maine. That's right. Your parents were in Maine. That's right.
Ohio,
and Ohio,
no picnic either.
Winters, no. Gosh, no. That's right. I knew that. Oof.
Yep.
Oof.
So it took 4 years, and kind of two things happened at the 4-year mark. One, three. My last child left for college. That was the first thing. I decided to marry, or agree to marry, the man that I'd been dating for the last few years. And even deciding to date, I did not think was going to happen, because after the divorce, I'm like, no men. Leave me alone. Everybody go away. People would be like, my
no romance here.
My brother thinks you're really cute. Be like, no. Don't you at least want to talk to him? No. It's like, my peace was so important to me at that moment. That 4 years that I spent in that little farmhouse with my daughter, I needed that peace so badly. But now my daughter was gone, and I'm like, wow. This purpose that had been my purpose for so long was my children. And it was like, who am I? And I realized that I really actually didn't want to be alone, which surprised me. So the second thing that happened was I agreed to move away, because he lived an hour and a half away. Didn't make sense for him to move in with me. So I agreed to move there. That was hard. That was hard. The day I moved, I sat in my empty bedroom, closed the door, and bawled, because I'm like, I really hope that I'm doing the right thing, because I finally had my peace and my solitude, You
came home to yourself in that home.
I did. I found myself again.
Yeah.
So I have to say that goes down as probably one of the best decisions I've made in my life, because he ended up being everything that I didn't know existed in a relationship. So it was perfect. But that's also when I gave myself permission for no more side jobs. I was throwing myself all in to the buying and selling this thing that I had started.
Yeah.
Wow. And we just had 13 years of marriage. So it'll be 14 years ago in December that I went full time.
Okay. Explain the name behind it.
Okay. Well, that came, got ahead of myself. That came about 8 years after I started selling on a regular basis on eBay, because I was looking for stuff that was cheap. Fabric came along. I didn't know anything about it, other than I came across some that wasn't very much money. So I decided I was going to put it in my store, experiment, learn about it, whatever. So about 4 years after that, I had so many fabric customers from all over the world that I decided to open up a different shop that was just fabric. eBay is still crazy. I will buy absolutely anything that will make money. eBay's nuts. But Etsy is only vintage fabric and salvage textiles, things like that. Now, the name Dot Oddity, my grandfather, we called him Dodd. And he was famous for repurposing, recycling, reusing, creatively. It wasn't always functionally, but it was creative. And so you know, it's kind of the same with that shop, because I will take any textile or anything that still has hope, and I will cut it apart. I will sell it. People will reuse it. The motto for my store is reuse, recycle, repurpose. And so the Dot Oddity just goes full circle to my grandfather, because you just never knew what he was going to bring home. And you don't know what I'm going to either. So that's where Dot Oddity came from.
Okay. Well, so you found these two different lanes, and I feel like you really incorporated what was modeled to you, the creativity, the writing, having your grandfather be this way, your dad being an illustrator, a painter, and, those things all kind of thread through you in such a beautiful way. And I point all this out because these are all in different ways components of how you've cared for yourself. These are ways that you for that 4-year period, you're like, no men, no out. I gotta get back to me and who I am. You set that boundary, and you knew you needed to be able to find your way back to you. Get in touch with her. Believe what you were told when you were growing up was possible, and start living that out and believing it was possible yourself. But there's a lot of healing that happens and needs to happen when you come out of an abusive relationship. This was an abusive, harmful relationship in a lot of ways that you were in for so many years. And you got to take time to care to that. And that, I want to say, I think such a smart decision, because I talked to so many women. You're so vulnerable at that point that there's a likelihood of attracting the wrong kind of relationship because of the vulnerable state you're in. You put up a boundary and like, no, I don't have the capacity, and maybe I will never have the capacity, but I know right now for me, I'm going to set this, rather hard thing. And then you also had the wisdom to see when you didn't need that anymore. And you sensed when the relationship was healthy, and you made a scary big move, because it is scary when you finally feel like you're safe, when you finally feel like you found your peace and your contentment and where it is you want to live out of. It's scary to leave that, even if you know the possibility is healthy. So you also, I would add courageous to your list of ways to describe you, because that was a courageous decision. But you were willing to be honest with yourself and like, I've moved forward from that place anymore. I'm realizing I want healthy companionship. And you didn't settle. You did the work on yourself. You got to that space, and you're also like, no, I'm taking down this no man boundary, and I will allow this space for this one in, because I sense the health of it, and that I'm in a space where I can receive that and participate in it.
Yeah, well said, and very true. And quite honestly, he had a 3-year trial run before I married him. So
you vetted him clearly.
I vetted him clearly, and not that he didn't try. Lord knows he tried. How many times he tried to walk me into jewelry stores in the mall, and like, what are you doing? We are going out the exit door. I am not going in there.
Oh my gosh, I love the persistence. Well, and he saw that in you, which is also, but he was willing to wait. He was patient too. But you go to this new space, and is it the place you're at now where you've got the land and the space and the property and all of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it became the sanctuary that I never knew that I would have. It was quite run down when we bought the place, 5 acres. I had horses at the time, and we needed a barn. And so it had a barn, but it also had a pond, and very overrun. The people before us left a lot of trash. They destroyed the house. But you know what? It became, it is. I want to be not buried. I want to be scattered here. I have so many flower gardens. It's ridiculous, which is why because I was in the flower gardens. They're always way behind on the weeding. But I'm so at peace when I am out there. And but yeah, we've got the land. Gosh, I think we're almost have 30 animals. Most of them are chickens and ducks at this point. I'm down to just one horse, but the grandkids come here. There's 8 between us, and they come here for camp on the farm every year for a week. And it's everything. I never thought I'd find a place that I can't find it in my heart that this ever belonged to anybody else except me, even though this house is well over 100 years old. It's like an 1800s farmhouse. It's like, how did it ever belong to anybody but me? How did it ever mean anything to anybody but me before, you know?
Wow. So beautiful. And that goes nicely into, the connection between our mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health. This place has become a tranquil place for you. You have your gardens, your flowers. You talk about in our panels and different times you've been together, that you go out there and kind of escape from the noise out there. And you've been able to create this space, but you took that space you were in before that home and created that space. But there was a lot to move through and process over this time for you. And then you're in a new season now where you're processing a different kind of loss and moving through that. So talk to me about this connection between your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health and how you've learned to navigate all this and how these spaces you've created in your work and in your home and your relationships have served you in that.
For whatever reason, I mean, my husband used to tell people that I was the most laid back woman that he ever met. Low maintenance, laid back. Okay, well, I'm here to tell you that for whatever reason, anxiety has taken over so many aspects of me. There are so many things that make me anxious, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's something that just happens as you get older. But it's very hard, and I don't like feeling anxious, but it's also a season of life that is difficult. You and I talked about it. I just lost my dad, and my mom is in her 80s. I'm not ready to be the elder. I'm not ready to move into that space. I'm not ready to not know what it feels like to have my parents. I'm very close with my parents. So there's a lot of balancing that goes on. There's a lot of days that I pray. There's a lot of days that I do not know what else to say except help me.
Yeah.
It just over and over just to get out of that space. And then there are other days like today when I am out there in one of my gardens and I don't have a care in the world. That the sky is blue, the sun is out, I can hear the birds. I've got good thoughts about my dad, and I'm in a really good place. So recognizing the things that I have and the places I can go to recapture some of that, it really, really helps. And it's really weird to say this. There's a real phenomenon called chicken therapy. And you can go out and sit in the coop with these chickens and hold a chicken and pet it. Chickens will purr like a cat, for crying out loud. But there's something, they kind of, it doesn't sound like a purr, but it's the same essence.
Sure.
But there's just recognizing things, cutting up some watermelon and taking it out to my horse. Now, I've had this horse since I rescued him and his mom when he was 3 months old. He's 17 now. So I've had this horse since he was a baby. I'm really the only person he knows, So just to have a moment with him and to bring him, a treat. I mean, there's just little things where I find peace, and I have to have them. I just won't live a life without peace anymore. But sometimes it's a battle, even now we're in a really good place financially. We both brought ex-marital debt into the relationship. But as of 3 years ago, we're 100% debt free. Something so strong in the power of that. All of a sudden, it's not survival mode, but as we start thinking about our retirement years, it's like we can choose. What do we want to do? So we're looking at Airstreams, and we're talking about traveling, and of course, more grandkids, always more grandkids. And of course, I'll still be writing. That's, I've got the children's book series that I kind of want to take into retirement. So I get a lot of that too.
Thank you so much for that. So beautiful. I think what comes forward to me is you're present and aware. So you know what resources you have at your disposal and how you need to care for yourself. I relate to the anxiety piece. You and I have talked about this. It is a ever present. It's been present with me my whole life. It went up a notch about 9 years ago, I guess it was, into a different level that I really had to get serious with myself and kind of do some work. And also, I think, we're learning more and more as more women's health comes out. This is not uncommon for perimenopausal and menopausal women to have this. And there's a lot of thought behind it, but it's like, okay, what can I do in this moment? And you become very aware of the things that tend to you. You become very aware of how to ground yourself. And I think that presence and self-awareness and being able to access that is so important.
And it's hard sometimes, because I know my husband very much wants to help, but sometimes I just need to be in my head and in my space, and I just need to be shut down. And sometimes I don't want to talk about it. And sometimes I'm going to cry, until I fall asleep. And I kind of know why, but it was the same way yesterday. Why didn't I cry yesterday? And it's hard, sometimes it's really, really hard to get a grip on it. And I think you're right, because I think I've always had some level of anxiety too. There were always things that worried me. I'll think about the grandkids have go-karts because my husband grew up with dirt bikes and stuff like that. So I'm the freak that said they're all getting helmets. So they all have like these full face get-ups with goggles and gloves. We got 5-year-olds and their heads are heavy and they're pulling them down. But I'm laying in bed one night because they have free reign of the property and they're really good on them, but they're also kind of fast. Yeah. And I'm laying in bed one night and I'm like, oh my God, if they went over the bank into the pond, they'd sink like a rock and they'd never get out of their seatbelt. And my brain's going to the dark place and the dark place and the dark place. And I sat upright and I'm like, okay, they're not allowed to ride anywhere near the pond anymore. New rules. So it's like every day there's new rules.
I know. And I think too, you have to and that makes sense. That is a real safety thing. Yeah. I mean, that totally makes sense to me. So I think it's that recognizing, being able to differentiate between that makes sense. We need to do this. And that's a thought that's trying to take me away. And it's not actually true. And how do I settle and get out of my head and settle the ruminating thoughts and all of that. And so being able to differentiate between the two can be a challenge sometimes too, because everything feels like an emergency in the moment.
Yeah, indeed. Very much so.
Yeah. So being able to parse that out. I think though, this awareness, this presence that you live in today allows you to show up in an unapologetic way. And I mean, you're not apologizing for taking up space. You're not apologizing for, this is my life and this is what I need to do with it. And this is how I walk it out. And I don't owe anyone a big, long explanation. I know who I am. I know how to connect to myself. And there's an invitation that goes into that too. You model that for the people around you. It lets them know who you are and that you're a safe space to land when they're walking things out as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've got my group of people, and we know where to land when we're bottoming out. So my sister and my best friend have caught me so many times and vice versa. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The group you live in is important.
It is 100%. So you decided, so the book, when you were working with your daughter and the equine therapy, that book was the first book that you rolled out in terms of publishing. Like you talked about the novels that you wrote in your 20s, and you've written
that was just a magazine article, but yes,
that was a magazine. Okay, all right. So that was that first taste of actually published work. Talk to me about kind of the evolution of the series that you've written and what's come from that. And because I think this is another way you show up as yourself, unapologetically, connecting to this and providing this resource to people.
Yeah, this is extremely unapologetic because I don't really hold anything back in these series. When I go to these auctions and estate sales, I'm not the only person there like me that buys and sells. Okay. But I go up against a lot of them are like old retired men that have been doing it since even before the internet. They go to flea markets and that sort of thing. So I have to prove myself to them. I have to be able to, impress auctioneers. There's always competition with somebody. So it's an adventure, and there's so much. I come in contact with so many people that are so human, good things and bad things, hilarious. I hate to call them flaws because they're not necessarily flaws, but it's
we're only human. We're only human.
Yes, it is a human experience. And as a storyteller, I'm very observant. And I would come home, and this really started to be a thing on my Etsy pages. I don't know why, but I just felt the need, and I started writing these little stories on my listing pages. Something that happened at this sale. I got this fabric at such and such sale, and the auctioneer was, so and so, and I had to go up against Krabby Patty, and it was this and that, and because everybody in my book has a code name because I'm unapologetic, but I don't want to be sued. So everybody has a code name.
So we're protecting identities.
Yes. And I started to get a lot of people on Etsy. They would write to me and they say, you know what? I want to know the whole story. You need to write a book. And by then I'd accumulated enough stories in my shop because all the different, they give you 20 categories, and all of my categories would represent an estate sale or an auction, a collection.
Yeah.
And so I had accumulated enough stories. And so I'm like, okay, I did this once before, and I started writing in the early morning hours again. But this time, I was 55 by the time I finished that book.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want to go the traditional route again. I invested a lot of years the first time. And quite honestly, the hardest thing that you face when you're trying to sell a book is convincing the publisher that there's an audience. Well, my audience found me. They came to me.
Yeah, they asked for it.
They asked for it. So it's like, you know what? I'm just going to publish this myself. Did I know anything about it? No, I've never self-published anything. And at the time, I was not debt-free yet. And so I think even being debt-free, I'm still watching my pennies, and I would find out how much somebody would want to format this book for me and be like, oh man, I can figure that out. I figured out harder things. So I did. I figured it out, and I published it myself. So there's two of them. There's Fabric Wars and More. And there's one more that I see before I feel like the trilogy is complete. And that one's on the computer. But yeah, it lets me tell the stories. It lets me be me. It talks a lot about my journey getting to where I am. It talks a lot about, there's a lot of anecdotes that remind me of what happened at this sale or this person or that person. There's characters like Thieving Thelma and Playboy Pete, and you heard me mention Krabby Patty, and
I love these
there's a character that I call Short Bang Theory. There's just all these. I just have they're just really outrageous stories,
Oh my gosh. I love that there's a place for these to go too, because you can process it and move it through and get it all out of your head, because this is happening. So many of these things are happening in real time around you. And oh my gosh, I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. I love that the audience asked for more. They're like, this week, come on. Yeah.
They're like, we need more. We need more. What else you got? Yeah. And awesome. It's funny because I thought I was being all sneaky, and I went to an auction, and this woman came up to me and she said, did you write Fabric Wars? And as an author, you're like, yes, I did. She looks at me, she goes, I know who every person is in that book. You're like, oh. It's like, okay, well, don't tell. Shh.
Here's the good news. You didn't use their name, so they can never prove it.
Right. Exactly. There are no real names in this book. Any likeness in this book.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh my word. All right. Talk to me about how your values and your why really inform how you show up today. I go back to that time you got married when, you were a baby, in so many ways. And that wasn't uncommon. Like literally, I remember, what the summer, I graduated from high school in the spring of 1988, and I was in a friend's wedding who graduated with me in August. And it's kind of that time where some people were still doing that. Some people were going off to school. Some people were going to the military, but but there was still, those things were still happening. If that happened today, my kids' heads would have exploded. Like, oh my God,
yeah, right.
Your child. Yeah. I mean, it just wouldn't, if it does happen today, and I know it does happen still some places, but if it was like the first, I mean, you just don't see it the way you used to. And also, it forces you to grow up in ways you didn't realize. And also, you realize as you're growing, I mean, I think it's so interesting. Our brains aren't even fully formed till they're 25. And so there's a part of me that's like, I don't think anybody, I don't know if anybody should I don't know if they should go to college till they're 21 or 22, because that means they come out when they're 25.
Right.
By the time we send them, but you're navigating all this life in that time. And through that, we're still figuring yourself out and learning about yourself. And then, on top of that, it's enough to just be that young. And then for it to be the kind of narcissistic abusive relationship that it ended up being just compounds that. So you come out of that at age 40 and you're like, who am I? What are my values? What is my why? What do I care about? I feel like that 4 years in time after that was such a revolutionary time for you. Is that you really feel like you came home and identified what your values were, what you cared about, who you wanted to be?
I think inside, I always knew what my values were and who I wanted to be. And I just couldn't ever get it out. I couldn't talk about if something was bothering me. I couldn't be upset about something. I couldn't complain about something. I couldn't, there just was no doing wrong on his side. And so if I did say something, I would be punished for it. I would be, there would be anger to deal with, and there would be, silent treatment, and there would just be pouting and just be whatever. And it was critical for my survival to say nothing. And so coming out of that, I had to figure out how to have a voice again. And I still don't always speak up sometimes when I think that I should. I think I'm probably always going to be that way to some degree, but there's also a hard line in the sand about what I will no longer have in my life. I will still keep my mouth shut to keep peace. I will still be the bigger person all day long. I learned something after my divorce, because no big surprise, my divorce was very ugly.
Yeah.
And what I learned were 4 words: choose to not engage. And that saved me. It saved me, because it can make a situation way more volatile. And it actually speaks louder than words to the person who is relentlessly throwing things your way. When you choose to not engage, you're not feeding that fire. So
their power is taken away.
Yeah. So now it's more for me, it's more of a decision. How do I want to handle this? Than it was knowing that I just had to keep my mouth shut. Now it's a decision. Do I want to challenge this? Is this worth bringing up, or is this something that I can let go? Or, so I do think I speak up for myself more. I have 5 friends that one of them I've had since I was 11 years old. And one of them I've only known for the last, I guess, 20 years, maybe 2 of them that long. But anyway, they are all vastly different women. And, I considered it one day. I'm like, why am I attracted to these 5 women? Why are these 5 women my people? And I think one of the biggest reasons is that they are all very strong women they're not afraid to say what's on their mind. They're not afraid to stand up for themselves. And I think that's something that I've needed surrounding me, for a long time. So yeah, they make me a stronger person.
Yeah. It matters who we surround ourselves with.
Yes.
And I think once we know our own value and we no longer question that, we're more mindful about that too. And we have a
Mhm.
better like barometer of like what you're going to let in and out and what is allowed to have influence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm
So
gonna
good.
give air to. Yeah.
Yes.
100%. 100%. I will leave the wrong person in my rearview mirror because I have to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we learn through these experiences, the importance of no longer abandoning ourselves. And I use this language a lot, but it's really, it's about being firmly grounded and
Mhm.
who we are, that I'm responsible for taking care of me, not someone else, but I am responsible. So I get to choose. And it is my responsibility to choose what comes in and out of this. And you chose to move forward with that, because when you come out of these really harmful relationships, you can get stuck in victim mode for a while. And you are a
Yeah.
victim. That is true. That is not untrue. And also you get to choose how to move forward from it. So, so holding the nuance of that and being mindful of those relationships. And this goes nicely into, living out of your own expectations versus others. You have moved into a season where I feel like you're really doing that. You're doing the things you've always wanted to do. You're tapping into those creative things and those things that you've inherited through family and also are integrally a part of you. You know who you are. You know what you need. You know what fills your cup. You're real about what you're experiencing. You're not, pulling any punches on that. And so just talk to me about this kind of presence that you are in today of truly, I believe, living out of your own expectations and not allowing outside voices to stifle you anymore.
And it's, there are still some days that it is a struggle. There is
Mhm.
absolutely zero regret, zero capitalized about leaving that life behind.
Yeah.
None. It was necessary. There has never been a day that I say, "Oh, well, maybe you reacted too soon," or nothing,
Mhm.
not even close.
Mhm.
Once the words were out of my mouth, it was no turning back, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but there are definitely still there's still behind the scenes garbage that I will have to probably filter out for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And my husband too, for that matter, because when
Sure.
it does break through and it does affect me, he gets to hear about it. And so I feel bad about that. I feel like there's a certain part of my old life that is never ever going to be completely gone because I don't think
Mhm.
that the games are ever going to stop, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of the games go on through my adult children. So they're a part of me and they're a part of him. So I
Yeah.
can't get away from it. But I have to be able to respect whatever relationship they have with him and
Mhm.
somehow separate it, you know?
Yeah. That's
But yeah,
tricky.
it can be very tricky indeed.
Yeah. And it's, to allow yourself to do what you need to do for yourself and allow them as adults to make decisions for themselves and without trying to like put your thumb on it in a way that we can be really challenging. We want what's healthy for our kids. We want what's best for our kids. And
Yeah.
also they're adults and we have to release them and empower them and not do things for them, allow them to figure things out on their own. And so those dynamics, especially when it's been toxic, that can be tricky for you to like be able to know where that line in the sand is for you. Yeah. And that's real life. I mean, I think I said this at the beginning. So much of what you've experienced in our living is a life. These are things that happen in a life. Life is, we come up as little kids with this idea of what we think a life's going to be. And 99.9% of the time, it ends up being, we have a visual and we can attain and move towards certain things, but there's just all these different curveballs and chapters that happen that no one sees coming. And so being able, that resilience piece you talked about, that ability to move through it and continue to process it and honor yourself in it, but it's not without constant kind of awareness and knowing, okay, I got to make a decision today about this. This is, this is just not something that cuts off and ends and is never coming back again. And I think, that goes really nicely into the layers piece, where you're embracing the layers that make up a life, the things you love, the things you don't love. And I tell people, I'm working with women and speaking to women. I'm like, listen, you don't have to love all the layers. That's not what I'm saying. But there's got to be an ability to acknowledge and name them and have kind of a neutral stance on them and allow the curiosity rather than the judgment to seep in. And so you no longer carry the shame, carry the fear, carry the guilt, carry the regret. You've got room for all of it. You can meet this woman where she was in these different seasons of life and see that and be like, okay, didn't love that, still don't love that, but we're moving forward. This is where we are today. What are we going to do with what we know now? And then when you can release yourself from the guilt and shame and fear and stuffing and running away from that can happen in these scenarios, you allow everything room to breathe. Does that feel like what you are been able to do?
Yeah, in a lot of ways it does. I think that there is, and I think we go through this as women. I think we all go through this as women, especially women that have had children. There's a certain level of acknowledgement and guilt that comes into a life over things that we think we might have done wrong or things that we think that we could have done better. And so there comes a point too, where you have to figure out how to forgive yourself and how to, how to say, you know what? I'm only human. So forgiveness is forgiveness is such a huge thing. And the ability to, I define success in anything by the ability to constantly pivot. Because if you're just steadfast in one direction, you're just going to keep, hitting up against that damn curb. It's just, you got to have the ability to pivot. And God, I've pivoted so many times in business, in books, in life. I mean, you just have to, believe in yourself.
Yeah. Allow the room for choice and change and pivoting and fluidity. And I think that you can be firm. And this is where knowing who you are is so important, and knowing where your foundation comes from, that value, because it gives you the stability you need, but also the grace in the room to pivot when things come along. You don't feel the winds shifting all the time because you know where you're coming from. You know who you are. You know who your people are. So it allows you the space to both have a firm foundation and the ability to be flexible when it calls. That's a life. That's the ability to navigate these different things that come our way in living out feel, finding empowerment, embracing layers, which is what I call feel. What you are doing, what you continue to do and evolve into in your life. Talk to me about how that's impacted the relationship with yourself as well as the relationship with other people. I mean, we've talked about those 5 friends. We've talked about the characteristics that your husband now has and what you've recognized in them. Talk to me about this kind of space you've gotten to today with this.
I feel like as long as I keep my core values and my core group of people non-negotiable, that anything else that comes my way, I need to be flexible. And the older we get, that's hard, especially when you enter into a relationship again in your 40s. You both have been hurt by past situations. You both have a hard line about what you will never be again, or the person you will never have in your life again. And these are really non-negotiable things. So coming together, you have to somehow meld that. You have to somehow, and it's hard. And there have been times when we've had to find compromises, but I have never felt more seen by somebody. And that's everything. We can sit in a perfectly quiet room and not saying a word, and it's such a loud conversation, it's deafening. It's just a really nice space to sit in. And He's my person. So I'm glad that I found that. I think it's mutual. I think that he feels that way about me. Um, the grandkids are a huge bonus. Being able to make them a priority and being able to do the things that we do with them, it's at a really, we're at a good place that we can do these things, you know. And of
Yeah.
course, being in the running for favorite grandparents has always kind of been a thing. So we're way up here.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
also those relationships that you're building and allowing for those cousins to have and build with
Mhm.
each other. What a wonderful memory.
Oh, I cannot wait. And I want to be wherever I am somewhere scattered in this garden and be able to know that my kids are telling these stories to their kids and to their grandkids. And yeah, I mean, it's just that's everything. It's really become prevalent to me the older I get that I really want to leave something good behind. I really want to leave something positive behind. I don't care if I'm worth $1 million when I die. You know, I care that my grandkids are going to remember us and that they're going to talk about Camp Klinger for the rest of their lives. You know, things like that. Those are the things that matter to me. Yeah, you're still muted.
Oh,
I think from your cough. There you are.
there I am. Sorry. Ooh, eyes watering. Okay. I love that. I love that picture that you created there. And the picture that you're creating for your family and to move forward and the legacy and the memories and the connection that you're modeling for them. I think that's so beautiful. As we wind down here, talk to me about 5 activities that nourish you.
5 activities that nourish me. Okay, well, we already talked about the garden. The garden is
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
And we talked about, you know, feeding the horse watermelon. So that's definitely up there too. I like to do my part, no matter how small, to make life just a little bit easier for somebody else. And this sounds like, I mean, I've done some bigger missions, the ones that I'm still doing right now. I don't know if you've heard of Bombas socks. They donate a pair of socks for.
I've got them all over my house. Yes.
I have been a giving partner with Bombas socks for probably about 8 years now. We find homes for about 5,000 pairs of socks a year. So the people that I meet through that, the shelters, and you know, it's just, yeah, that definitely it definitely brings it home for me. But you know, just there's little things. It's like, you know, I've been doing something for other people as long as I can remember, even when I had nothing to give except my time. It just always felt like the right thing to do. Our chickens were a camp project. They got to hatch eggs one year for camp.
Oh my gosh.
And then the chicken coop just grew and grew and grew because I decided I needed to have chickens that laid blue eggs and green eggs and brown eggs and white eggs. And I needed all the colors of the rainbow. So now, anyway, I don't eat eggs. We have way more eggs than I will ever know what to do with. So I take the eggs to either the soup kitchen for the homeless, or I take them to the food pantry for people who, you know, can't buy groceries. And so just doing those little things, that's something that fills my bucket. Yeah, 100% spending time with the grandkids. Although I laugh about this because they're here for a week. Thursday is typically and historically my meltdown day. So
I'm
and
exhausted.
everybody kind of knows it. So yeah, it goes real well until Thursday.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and we have this incredible pond on our property. It's very peaceful. I think my husband finds his happy place. There's a thing called fish chow. He orders it in giant 50-pound bags from Amazon. It's like dog chow, but it's for fish. And he feeds the fish every night, and they come like he called them by name. They come in swarms. So that's his happy place. But if I'm just sitting in the chair there under the tree, I find it there too. You know, my mom once said to me, she spent 6 months with us one time, and she told me that she experienced the veil on our farm. And I don't know if you've ever heard about the veil before, but it is a thin, it's where the layer between here and there is the thinnest.
Wow.
And where you can feel the there.
Yeah.
So she spent a lot of time outside here, and she, yeah. So anyway,
that settles me just thinking about it. Wow.
yeah.
And I have this visual in my head too of what it looks like. And you can't, that is that. Thank you for sharing that. That's so beautiful. And there's that place to find the peace and the contentment and the solitude and the serenity that comes with having those spaces like that, and how good that is for our health.
And if you notice, everything that I mentioned is right here in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't have to look any further than right here.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I'd ever find that. I didn't know it was real.
Yeah. Yeah. Sit with that for a minute, listeners. Sit with that for a minute. I think that's really powerful. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh. 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
Oh boy. I want to feel, and this is going to relate to me just recently losing my dad. I want to feel at peace, with that period of time that's still really super fresh. I want to feel joy. Yeah. I want to feel forgiveness of myself, and even forgiveness of people that I don't want to forgive.
Yeah.
100% love. That's got to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I guess, I don't know, maybe excited for the future, because we're thinking about retirement, and we're talking about looking at Airstreams and where we want to go. And so it's like a new adventure. So on a time I would have never, when I was married, that was one of my biggest fears. What am I going to do when all the kids are gone? Because I couldn't envision spending that time with who I was with. And now the kids were never part of who we are.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. And the grandkids are, but the kids weren't.
Yeah.
And that's a very different thing. I think that realization, and your life, and because I've gotten a chance to know you over the last year, your life for me, it unveils like a movie reel, and you're heading into that next chapter. I'm so glad we connected. I'm so happy to know you. You have become part of this network of women that I have built over the years, and I'm so grateful for. Thank you for coming on with me today. This has been a bumpy season, and we've had to move it around a few times. And but thank you for coming on and just being who you are, sharing your story, creating these resources that so authentically come out of who you are, and all these different ways of connecting with people. Let people know right now how they can connect with you, find you, follow you.
I do not have a website, so to speak. I keep telling myself one of these days, but man, I'm just so stinking busy. So there's always Etsy. If anybody out there is into fabric or textiles, I will talk your ear off. I will let you talk yours off. You can find me on Etsy. That's under the Dot Oddity. Instagram is also under Dot Oddity. And I do a lot of videos for the shop on Instagram. It's probably my most active social media page. Mm-hmm. I am on LinkedIn, but that's under Kira Hartley Klinger. And I have a Facebook author page under Kira Hartley Klinger.
Okay.
But yeah,
great.
Love to connect.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to more of your panels.
I know, such great connections, such good conversations, and jump on some panels. We'll link the panels Kira has been on in our show notes as well, so you can go visit those if you haven't had a chance to yet. Full of so much just great conversations and wisdom and connection. One last thought that you would like to leave with our listeners today?
At the end of the day, life is really short. It doesn't feel like it sometimes.
Yeah.
But when you're staring down the barrel of 60, you're like, where did all the time go?
I hear you, sister. Oh my gosh.
It's just, Yeah. Just figure out what's important and chase it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for taking this time for how you show up in the world. So thankful again that our paths have crossed, and to our
Me
friends at
too.
Podmatch that connect me with these magnificent women that I'm so fortunate to know. Remember, listeners, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you get to choose. Don't ever forget that. Take good care of yourselves this week, and we'll see you next time here on the Feel Podcast. Hello, and thank you so much for being with us today on this episode of the Feel Podcast. If you would like more information on how you can apply these talking points that I share with our guests in each episode to your own life, really utilize this Feel framework, go to embracinglayers.com, fill out our contact form, and let's set up a free 30-minute consultation to talk about how you can start living your most authentic, organic, healthy, feel-fueled life. Thanks again for being with us today. We'll be back to you soon with another episode here on the Feel Podcast.